Ladies and gentlemen, Roster Watch Nation, welcome back to the epic Roster Watch podcast brought to you by RosterWatch.com. My name is Alex Dunlap, joined by the Trashman in Spain this time, as well as Cody Carpentier.
Valencia.
What did you say, Trashman?
I said Valencia.
Valencia.
Valencia is a city.
Okay. Enjoying Valencia, Spain so far?
Yeah, it's 75 degrees here. Yeah, and sunny.
You've gone out in the street and had some kind of raging bull stick its horn up your rear end or anything?
Jesus.
nothing like that. It's transpired.
Is this the last stop on the old summer training camp tour?
Yeah.
Summer
stopped in London on the way back just because of the flight, but yeah.
Gotcha.
Speaking of the training camp tour, man, we've had our group text sort of going back and forth for all of our members of Roster Watch Nation, man, our pro members at Roster Watch. We should have a really good training camp tour again this year, getting back on Sirius XM starting, I guess, around the middle of July, and we're going to have some content there, but of course, certainly content on the website as well, bringing you the information from these training camps that you need to know that are going to really help us the way it always does with the maniacal cheat sheets and everything else. It was looking like we might get up to 22 different camps this year. So it'll be our biggest training camp tour ever. This could be the biggest summer ever. We're here just trying to get together some of these tools and to get together some of our initial thoughts before we can go see this with our own two eyes, because the most important thing we want to do for you guys is make sure that we're not just the ones reading the little clippets and the snippets from these cockamamie people at Roto World. Or all, like, we need to see this with our own two eyes. We need to see how these guys are being utilized. We need to see how they're operating in practice. We need to see where they're lining up in practice. We need to be looking for the things that the regular beat reporters aren't going to be telling us about. So that's why we do the training camp tour. It's why we go to the Senior Bowl, the Combine, the Shrine Bowl, all the rest of the stuff, man. We need to make sure that we have the information that nobody else does here at Roster Watch. As I'm beginning to make these tools and putting together the cheat sheets, guys, we think it's important to maybe look at players that are consistent and players that are safe, especially when we our attention becomes more and more from best ball to now redraft. So this is the safest wide receivers to roster in 2024 fantasy football. And look, it's still early, but right now we can feel safe about certain guys. Cody, do you want to start?
Yeah, I'll start. We had a conversation earlier this week about, some projections and what that looks like for a lot of these receivers. And one player that I kind of came out of that conversation.
I knew it was going to be him first off the bat.
Continuing to dig into him. I mean, it's Mr. Consistency. We talked about him coming out the NFL draft. We knew what he was going to be, and he's 23 years old, about to turn 24 here in a couple of weeks, 2 weeks from today, to be exact, here Thursday, June 13th. That's Chris Olave. Back-to-back 1,000-plus yard seasons, 120, 138 targets.
Not who I thought either. I know who Trashman is going to say, so he can take it after this, but I certainly love Olave, so continue.
I think consistency in Olave's game, averaging 13 to 14 yards per reception. He only had 4 and 5 touchdowns the last 2 years, but the targets are the big thing, 119, 138. That's what I'm chasing here. And I think Derek Carr is going to continue to push that football out to his wide receiver one. We had news today that Juwan Johnson has a lower leg injury, so that's another weapon in that offense that could potentially miss time. Rashid Shaheed looking like their wide receiver too in 2024. We know what he is. He's a dynamic stretch piece, and he's not going to be someone that takes away, digs into those 6, 8, 10 targets per game from a Chris Olave. So I think
every week on Prize Picks or Underdog, he's going to have a 2.5 reception over under. It's just that's how it goes with Rashid Shaheed. It's just the problem is one of them usually goes for a 70-yard touchdown.
Yep, and that's the thing that the defenses have to pay respects to Rashid Shaheed. And, they have the backs in the backfield, Kendra and Alvin Kamara. I just think Chris Olave is going to continue to be a target hog. You're going to see that number continue to go up. Like I said, 138 targets last year, an increase of 20. You could see that number continue to go up to 150, 155, 160 in 2024. And him, like I said, be safe, be consistent, and just give you those 17 to 24 fantasy points per game in PPR in 2024.
Going right now as wide receiver 11 off the board, sandwiched in between Marvin Harrison Jr. and Drake London. I feel like after those guys, I start getting a little bit worried about what we might have in like a Deebo Samuel and Nico Collins, these kinds of guys, just given the surrounding casts. And gosh, just a unbelievably, it's always a miserable prop for. Oh man, look, we got money. We got Money B in the chat. What's up, Money B? Harry Snowman in the chat. Jamie Perrault. Good to see all you guys, man, here in the YouTube chat. All right. What I was gonna say was with Debo, when you look at his season long props, they always look so bad for fantasy when you extrapolate it out, because I think it's 750 yards receiving is the over under, which seems it seems a little bit low to me. It seems a little bit low, but he always makes up for so much of the fantasy juice with what was unsustainable rushing touchdowns two years ago. But we have seen over the course of time he does bring a lot. Just rushing the football. Getting those extra touchdowns like that, but he's certainly Debo Samuel, not a safe player. And it's just juxtaposed being taken only 2 spots away from Chris Olave does make him seem safer. Trashman, you going to talk about Amon-Ra St. Brown now?
Well, I thought that's who Cody was going to talk about, because actually Chris Olave was on my list, but he's further down. Amon-Ra was obviously the first on my list.
He's as safe as they come.
I figured he'd be the first on everyone else's as well.
Yes.
I mean, Amon-Ra, he was 5th in targets last season, 164 targets, but second in receptions, with a tie for second in receptions with 119 with Tyreek Hill. If we're just talking about one of these guys here who doesn't have that much changing on their offense, he's in that mix too. You have some of these other guys who could be argued as being safe based off of their totals last season, but a lot has changed within the infrastructure of their offenses, and Amon-Ra, that just isn't the case. So it's like a perfect storm for him. I guess if you don't count like Jameson Williams potentially getting more action, and like you guys talked about in the last podcast, maybe that actually helps Amon-Ra St. Brown. It's just a perfect storm for him being safe each and every week. So many indoor games as well this season. I think only 3 outdoor matchups this season. Like I said, it's just a perfect storm for Amon-Ra St. Brown, making him arguably the safest receiver this season. It's
also just when you take the fact that that he's he's got we talked about all. He's just got the hatred in his heart. Like he's just the most self-motivated guy there is, man. He's John St. Brown's kid. It's like they grew up. Like, what is his dad, Mr. Universe? Yeah, all those guys, dude. They grew up with this thing where it's like, do you remember EQ St. Brown? Like, everybody thought he was so weird because his dad always told him not to stretch before practice because cheetahs don't stretch. Like, all this stuff, man. He grew up with some hard coaching and stuff, man. He's out there for blood. So I don't ever worry about his motivation. And then I'm just gonna keep coming back to it, dude, because we have to just consider not only the game environments, as Trashman said, 3 outdoor games only next season, but Detroit, a 27 or a 25.7 point average implied team total over the course of the season. One that actually really starts out super, super, super duper hot with 4 27+ point implied team totals just to start the season. You tell me that Amon-Ra St. Brown is not going to be a huge part of those? So yeah, Amon-Ra St. Brown for me. Certain, and it's just so funny that all the sportsbooks have these wildly different projections and over-unders set on all these players. For Amon-Ra St. Brown, they just set it nice and easy. It's like 100 to 105 catches, 1,250 yards, 8.5 touchdowns. It's the exact same everywhere.
Hammering that.
It's really easy to get dialed in with a dude like him when the volume is so projectable. Mine, maybe you guys will find this a little bit strange, but the more and more I look at it, do you know who is very safe and who appears very safe and projects very safe?
Probably one of the other guys that I have on my list.
He's going as a low end wide receiver 2 right now. Does that give you a hint? It's Javonte Smith. Does he feel safe to you?
I want to hear the bull case on this.
The thing is, my second safest pick was AJ Brown.
Okay, so there's a couple things with Javonte Smith. One is just the fact that I believe in PPR. Look, this is all off the dome, but I'm 99% sure that this is right. Wide receiver 14, wide receiver 19 over the course of the last couple of years. Going off the board right now is wide receiver 21 in fantasy drafts. if you look at the 2024 season-long props tool up at rosterwatch.com, where he's being taken right now at wide receiver 22, actually, not wide receiver 21, wide receiver 22, he should, based on his so he's being projected for 1050.5 receiving yards on DraftKings, 1050.5 on Underdog, 1025.5 on Prize Picks, 950.5 on FanDuel. He has basically an average of 1019.3 if we just look at what the sports books. Now, again, those aren't our projections, but it's important to look at what the market is thinking versus our projections for this stuff. That would basically equate over the course of his career to 79 receptions, and there's an over-under of 6.5 touchdowns for the guy out there somewhere. So if you're looking in a PPR league, he's going as wide receiver 22. He's priced in right now as a guy that should be going as wide receiver 13, ahead of guys who are going way ahead of him, like Marvin Harrison Jr., who is going at 10. Like Nico Collins, who's going at 13, Drake London, who's going at 12, Brandon Ayuk, who's going at 14, DJ way ahead. I mean, we're talking 2 points better per game in PPR than DJ Moore, that's going at 16. Jalen Waddle's going at 19. He projects almost 2 points better than him per game if we're just looking at that stuff. Now, we also have, if you just look at the game totals and the spreads and the implied team totals and stuff like that, over the course of this season, Philadelphia's going to be in good game environments. The average implied team total over the course of the season, 24.28, with games to start out the season, a 25-point implied team total to start, a 26-point implied team total to start, then a 24.75 after that one. So good, 24.5 and up to all the way to 26 to starting out as far as implied team totals over the course of the season, the 8th highest implied team total on average per game in the league. And then I look at the new offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore, right? And we've talked about it before. Well, how much can he really bring, right? To like, why would they want to mess with what Sirianni's doing, right? Like it ain't like things have been going well there. But if we just look at what Kellen Moore's done, so he was with the Cowboys from 2019 to 2022. In 2019, I believe he had let me just see real quick. So receiving yards. Dude, so this guy had Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup, both over 1,100 yards in 2019. Michael Gallup, as we all know, stinks. So he's been able to, get this. So year after that, Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb's rookie season, I believe, that was 1,100 for Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb with like 935. The next season after that, 2021, things start to fall off a little bit here still CeeDee Lamb 1,102, and he still had Amari Cooper that year go for 865. It's only in 2022 when things really fall off and everybody got hurt, right? And it was only, as far as the receiving, it was just the CeeDee Lamb for the 1,400 yards, right? Behind him was like Noah Brown, Gallup. Those guys were hurt during the course of the whole season. But then last season with the Chargers, there was the resurgence for Keenan Allen. Mike Williams got hurt early on the season, but he had like 248 yards through 3 games. Is 80-something per game times 17. We're talking like on pace for 1,300 and something yards for Mike Williams. Like, I think that he can, they're going to devise and the other thing is look at the Eagles roster outside. I was looking at it earlier, Cody, and I guess I had just forgotten that the Eagles they're miserable. Paris Campbell looks like he's going to be their wide receiver 3 this year. Well,
that's what they said, that we talked about that last week. That was the big takeaway from some of the people dominating.
Good for Paris. It's about time he.
Paris Campbell and John Ross. Those were the 2 guys.
They're still saying, is it going to be like guys like Joseph Nada, or is Trashman's boy Johnny Wilson going to step? It's like, dude, this is going to be a good offense where 2 guys are going to be able to get theirs. Dallas Goedert, as much as we love him, he never really bites in too much to this stuff. And just one other thing, if you look at him last year in PPR, starting in week 8 last year, he only got you less than double. Here was his fantasy totals in PPR starting in week 8 last year. And I started at week 8 because admittedly, week 5, 6, and 7, he did have a small skid where versus LA, 1.6 fantasy points versus at the Jets, 9.4, which is understandable. versus Miami when guys were still healthy in their secondary, 8.9. Okay. Those were his stinker games. From week 8 on, 22.9 fantasy points, 14.1, 15.9, 23.6, 24.6, 12.3, 10.0, 17.9, a stinker versus Arizona in a game that was meaningless, right? And then the wild card game where he gets 12 targets for 8 catches and 148, going for 22.8 fantasy points. Javonte Smith is safe, and he's a value right now.
Well, and that's why I made A.J. Brown my second safest pick. I mean, 2 points per game more averaging than Javonte Smith. Same amount of touchdowns, but he's getting
a lot more for him.
But he's also getting 45 more targets in a season. And he's getting more yards. He's less touchdown dependent. So those are the reasons. And it is in addition to the ones you already set for Javonte, as far as the other team aspects that make A.J. Brown safe as well.
I love AJ Brown too. It's just with AJ Brown, you're paying, you gotta take him at the 1-2 turn. You could take Javonte Smith in round 4.
I mean, yeah, that's fine. We're just talking about the safe aspect, and 2 points per game more, 2 fantasy points per game more.
But inherently, things become more risky as you deploy more draft capital to get them. I think Devontae's safer than AJ Brown, considering the draft capital you have to give up to get AJ Brown.
But we're also depending on Smith getting those, big games, having those breakout games, and that's not necessarily the case with AJ.
Yeah, but what I just said, like for the whole last half of last season, he was just a steady Eddie, like I said. Now he did have the 3 down games, week 5, 6, and 7.
I guess. But week 12 and 13, 7.5, 7.9, 9.9, 9.4, 3.6. Like he had a 5-game.
Are you looking at half point PPR or standard?
PPR
last year. I have him
PPR last year. Week 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. When you need to win to get to the playoffs. 3.6, 9.4, 9.9, 7.5, 7.9.
Hold on. You're looking at 2023?
2023. Oh shit! I'm reading the wrong player. My bad. Okay,
dude, I'm going crazy. I mean, he was doing fine. Weeks. Like look at week.
Give me sheets up.
Okay, yeah. I mean, 22.9, 14.1, 15.9, 23.6, 24.6, 12.3, 10.0, 17.9, 6.0 in the game that he barely played, and then 22.8. But that was wild card. The 22.8. But dude, Devontae was good last year. Yeah, he was not up and I don't think I think
all I'm saying is if you had to flip a coin, if you had to pick between the two, of
course I'm taking AJ Brown.
Okay, then he's safer. Then he's the safer guy.
Well, no, he's more expensive. Okay, all right, fine. Cody, let's hear Trashman's second grade logic here.
Hey, it works. Even a second grader could do it.
I hope you guys don't have these two guys. These are 2 chalk players, but these are guys that are in the top 10. I got 3 players left, but I'm just going to name these 2 in a bunch together. Garrett Wilson and CeeDee Lamb, both in offenses that we're perceiving to be in the top 10 in scoring offenses. That's assuming Aaron Rodgers is healthy. That's the only thing I think on Garrett Wilson's kind of resume as we go into 2024 that gives you question. But I still think Garrett Wilson is one of the safest wide receivers, even last year, playing in all 17 games without Aaron Rodgers, 168 targets, 95 receptions, over 1,000 yards. He still got the 3 touchdowns. He still gave us that output that kind of doubled down on his rookie season. And with a healthy Aaron Rodgers, with a better offensive line, with a healthy backfield, I continue to expect Garrett Wilson to give us a 12, 1,300-yard season as a baseline. Like that's going to be with a healthy Aaron Rodgers. I can bet on that. And I think that's safe, as well as the upside that you get with the healthy Aaron Rodgers that can vault you up to that 14, 15, 1,600-yard range that we've seen out of Davante Adams, plus the touchdowns that we haven't even seen, 4 and 3 the last 2 years. Then CeeDee Lamb, I'm just going to say that name because he feels – of the, I know you brought up Amon-Ra St. Brown, but of the Jeffersons, Chase, Hill, Lamb, of that, those 4 guys who are going to the top 5 right now on Underdog, Lamb to me feels like the safest just because there's really nothing around him other than, Ryan Flournoy, Brennan Cooks, guys of that nature. So I feel safe about CeeDee Lamb and Garrett Wilson.
CeeDee
I'm also
feels
going to
all
name. I'm
very
gonna
safe.
go ahead and name my third player because my doorbell's about to ring, so I'm going to drop my screen here. But my last one is Chris Godwin, and I think that the 1,000-yard season continuing with Baker Mayfield, who gave Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham a 1,000-yard season just a few years ago, in 2019 it was. I think he continues that. This offense is better in 2023, and they continue to build. And I think Chris Godwin, wide receiver 37, is extremely safe.
I like that, especially with them moving back into the slot. We got our guy Money B here with the super chat. We appreciate you, Money B. Thank you, brother. Cody will be back here in a second. He can weigh in on this. I guess he's got a package coming.
Well, I want to know with this, is it redraft?
So he's saying, Money B, is this redraft? Is this dynasty? He says this. He needs RB help. Which of these would you be willing to move for a running back? Mike Evans, Tyler Lockett, Josh Palmer, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. Okay, so this isn't dynasty. So if this isn't dynasty, we start thinking about age for these guys. I think that Tyler Lockett is. I just don't know who you're going to be able. Look, I'm not interested in moving Mike Evans right now in dynasty because I like Mike Evans this year.
To me, it's probably Mike Williams based on just his injury history.
But it's like trash. That's a trashy, easy answer because nobody's going to give you anything for Mike Williams in dynasty right now. Who are you going to trade him?
I mean, like,
who are you going to trade him for?
The speculation that he's going to do well for New York, you really don't know. You know, you're banking on his upside there in that offense.
Look, if there's somebody who you could, because at least Josh Palmer is still kind of young. What is he, 27? 26, 27?
27 seems old for Palmer.
He was old coming out. Can you pull up your Dynasty Top 250 and tell me how old Josh Palmer is? Cody, you
26.
26. Okay.
25 and a half, 26. He's got to be.
Okay. Money B. I hate to tell you, man. I think that I think you're probably gonna, if you want to have a running back of any kind of consequence, I think you're probably gonna need to trade maybe package a couple of these guys to a dude that really, really needs help at wide receiver among his depth. It's a win now team, right?
Josh Palmer is 25 right now.
Okay. All right. So I'd say, Cody, do you have any ways to maybe craft a trade here involving Evans, Lockett, Palmer, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams for a running back, maybe a running back who he could target right now in Dynasty? Because he's got to target somebody a little bit older. I mean, maybe you could see if you could trade like Mike Williams for like Zeke Elliott or something like that.
Actually, Palmer's 24. He'll be 25 this season.
Okay, so I guess he wasn't as old as I thought he was whenever he came out.
I don't know how you can move. This is from a dynasty mindset of saying I wouldn't be the one acquiring Lockett. I'm not trading for Mike Williams. I'm not probably trading for Mike Evans unless I need a little bit of depth and I'm trying to win a championship this year. Like, I think you're Keenan Allen kind of the same boat. Like, these guys are on the back end of their careers and dynasty, especially. Personally, I'm not trying to acquire one of these guys unless I view my team as like right now. And I don't know what you're getting in return for that. Can you get Zach Moss? Can you?
No.
Could you trade Mike Williams for Zach Moss? Like, no. I see Jamie Prague saying I tried selling Mike Williams for a late third 4.04 and all those trades were declined. And Zach Moss has gone for 2024 thirds, 2025 seconds. Like, I don't even know if you can get a Zach Moss.
You saw Zach Moss go for a 2024 third recently?
Yeah. That was on MFL. That was on the trade finder at Player Profiler. They have the MFL stuff. So that, there's some cockamamie leagues in there, but that's a trade that happened in Dynasty, Superflex, PPR. So
for me, it's probably Mike Evans or Josh Palmer then.
But do you want to get rid of those guys? Like, is this?
I would want to get rid of Palmer. Yes.
Yeah.
So
the projections, the broad line projections, I know we have a little bit of inherent bias. We are not the biggest Josh Palmer fans from, all the analysis we've done over the last few years, and Byron does like him. And if you do listen to other people in the space, the projections this year come through pretty positive for Josh Palmer. So if there's people out there that are willing to spend on Palmer, that would be definitely one that you can, you kind of just roll out there and see what you can get for him.
Yeah, and you're going to need to buy a distressed asset at running back. You might need to do something like go to the the Javonte Williams owner, after this news came out today that Cecil Lammy, of course, speculating he might not even make the team. Do we trust Cecil on this, boys? Is it true that Javonte Williams might not make the roster?
So the rosters, that's a weird one. Trade maybe, I don't know. I mean,
I don't see that being the case.
Peyton loves his guys though. Peyton loves Estime. Peyton loves McLaughlin. Peyton loves Watson. That's a lot of running backs. And Javonte's in a contract year. So could you see him getting flipped for a fifth round pick or something to some team?
I mean, I just don't
back?
see that with a rookie quarterback. I mean, with young talent at wide receivers, they might be, who knows what's going to happen with Cortland Sutton. It seems like Williams is maybe one of the most stable pieces on that offense.
But Trashman, are you just completely giving up all of your love and all of your hope for your sweetest baby, Blake Watson?
No, I love Blake Watson. I love him. But I don't know that they would get rid of somebody like Javonte without really knowing what they had in these guys. I don't know.
Get rid of the old adage. Get rid of these old players. His legs are not there. Blake Watson, Jaleel McLaughlin, Audric Estime is the new backfield in Denver.
We got to get this one thing. Price check on Rashod Bateman and start 3 wide receiver dynasty here for the memes. Thank you so much for the $1.99 super chat here on YouTube. And thanks to everybody for watching on YouTube. Almost 500 of you guys watching concurrently right now. If you could remember to like the show, subscribe to the channel. If you're watching on X, if you could like the tweet, we would appreciate that. But certainly comments and stuff on YouTube, all you guys in the chat is super, super helpful. So we thank you guys a ton. Have you seen anything as far as Rashod Bateman lately, Cody? There's been a whole lot of talk lately about, is this his third year? I mean, we used to have it used to be a third year doctrine for us.
Fourth.
It was sort of the AJ Green doctrine that Byron always talked about. We used to be patient with wide receivers. People aren't as patient anymore because we've seen these dudes kind of come in. Do you have any of the any idea of like guys who are being traded for these guys right now?
So in the last 5 days, Bateman's been a part of looks like 6 trades over on the MFL trade machine. 2024 third round pick. This was in standard scoring. Bateman and Chuba Hubbard went for a second round pick in traditional. Bateman and Jahan Dotson went for Devontae Adams. I don't know about that. Bateman went for a 312. Bateman went for a 2025 3.
He's going for a third rounder right now.
311.
Third rounder.
Yeah. Bateman plus Aaron Jones for Terry McLaurin. So that's kind of your ballpark.
Trashman in Dynasty, which would you rather have? The 311 where you can get Malachi Corley or Rashod Bateman?
I think we kind of have seen what we have in Rashod Bateman. Well, in that offense, I'm not bullish on any Ravens receiver, to be honest. Give me the pick.